What would it be like to be a social engineer? Now, you might be wondering, what the heck is a social engineer? Well, I promise you that's one of the very first things that we're going to be breaking down. But as a spoiler alert, if you consider the world of human hacking, sometimes there are some altruistic ways that people go about doing these things and that the end game is, for a good purpose. Other times, not so much, right? Some malicious acts there, trying to steal away some sensitive information, credit card details, passwords, so on and so forth. Well, that is the world of social engineering, and that is what we're going to get into. And we have this great guest. His name is Hadnagy. By all accounts, he's one of the godfathers of this field, at least as far as how it's taken shape in the last 10 to 15 years. And we break down this world of social engineering as far as what it entails, as far as his responsibilities, as far as, a day in the life. And I do have to say, there are some stories and descriptions of his work that are going to blow your mind. As, a bit of a hint here, it almost sometimes sounds like some Mission Impossible work. I'm not going to go further than that. You're just going to have to check out the video and check out the full-length audio version of the talk. And you can do so wherever you access your podcast. Just look for Life as a ... Well, I do want to get into this, so why don't we? Well, to get things started, I do want to let you know about some of the sexier aspects of being a social engineer. And here's a clip of Chris breaking that down. So check it out.
In my career, I've got to send 19 million phishing emails in my career.
Wow,
right?
That's a number.
It's a huge number. And I got to phish 19 million people, right?
Yeah.
I've gotten to break into banks all over the world. I've gotten to break into secure government facilities that are fully armed. I got to break into water treatment plants and, healthcare centers, hospitals, you just name it. And I've gotten to do things that, like, my brain goes, what? It was just, it was 2 months ago, myself and two other people from the company, we went and broke into a facility, and the way we breached it, because this facility was covered in a fence with barbed wire, we swam across a river holding a ladder. And then put the ladder up against the barbed wire fence and use some towels we brought from the hotel to breach the barbed wire fence. I mean, it's like I'm in the middle of this river. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. It's pitch black out, and I'm like, what am I doing? What am I? I'm swimming across a river with a metal ladder. Like, what's happening in my life?
And for context, really quickly here, I must add that, you are contracted to these organizations. They're hiring you to do these things as well.
That's a really great point. That's a really great point. Yes. You did not have a professional thief or criminal on your podcast. No.
We don't go down that path on my path.
We don't go down that. No,
not yet.
Everything is legal. So what happens is these companies, like, I'll give you an example. This particular organization was worried because they had some threats from terror organizations, and threats of, like, we can kill everyone in your town if we poison the water plant. So what they wanted us to do was say, okay, is that even possible? We think we're secure. We got cameras, we got motion sensors, we got this, we got guards, we got all of this. So they hire us to simulate a terror group, but of course we don't poison anything. But can we get to the water tank? Can we get our hand over the water tank, a picture of us holding nothing, but just our hand, and we could have dropped something in there. And if we get to that point, then we tell them how we did it, so that way they can fix the problem before a terror group would ever be able to do it. And to me, the companies that think this way, these are proactive, really intelligent companies, because they're not saying, let me wait until I get hacked, and people die or jobs are lost or millions of dollars are lost. Let's do it before bad things happen, and we'll fix the problems preemptively. So it's all legal, all above board, all by contract, but they have that thought process of saving the organization before something bad happens.
I don't know about you, but that last clip kind of blew my mind, that there are actual careers and possibilities out within this world to be involved in that type of work. Anyway, I do want to jump into this other clip here, and getting back to the meaning of social engineering, within the context of information security. Just to give you a heads up here, social engineering by definition is any act that influences another person to take action that may or may not be in their best interest. Now, that was from a Wikipedia entry. that our guest, Chris Hadnagy, had actually written up himself. And here's a little bit more commentary on this world of social engineering, on the meaning of what this all stands for. So have a listen.
So for me, when I looked at social engineering, I wanted to understand how humans make decisions, right? And to understand that, it's really hard to analyze the bad parts, like the malicious parts, because for us, it's you can only do that after the fact, right? After an attack occurs or after something like that. But I found that the very same emotional set or sets of emotions or brain chemistry that would occur in a good setting could be in the bad setting, but used for a different purpose, right? Like let's look at an example of a con man. Con man makes you feel happy. He makes you feel trusted. He makes you smile. He has got great nonverbals, and then you trust him and you give over money or product or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So you start to analyze the way that we make decisions as a human, and what brain chemistry is involved in that, and what physiology is involved in that. And I started to study all of that and said, you know what, social engineering is something we all do every day. We do it with our mates, our spouses, our partners, our kids, our clergy, therapists, whatever it is, our people that work for us, our bosses. We're using elements of influence and rapport and elicitation, but our purpose generally for most of us is not to get someone to do something bad. Now, on the malicious social engineer side, they're trying to get you to click a link or give money or credit card or something worse.
Okay, well, now that we're all on the same page as far as social engineering and what it entails, what it's all about, here's a clip of Chris getting back to the work that he's involved in. And I mean, not every day is Mission Impossible-esque. I mean, there are some other types of duties and responsibilities that social engineers have, and here's Chris explaining those.
And the amazing stuff is about 10%. 15%, let's say, around there. The rest of the percentage all involves things like meeting with people, report writing, talking to clients who don't understand what just happened, writing education that helps bolster, doing research, right? This field, in this field, and I'm sure in a lot of fields it's the same, you can't rest. I can't say, well, look, I learned that 5 years ago, so it's good. Science is changing every day. The way that we understand how the brain works is changing every day. And even though I'm not a psychologist or a researcher, I have to keep up on that research. Otherwise, I'll be left behind and using something that's 5 years old. And, you know, Dr. Abby, she works with us now, and she's been integral for us there, because she'll take something and she'll hear me give a speech. She'll go, hey, by the way, we got to change that. There's some new science on this.
All right, well, next up is a clip of Chris explaining how he got into the world of social engineering. And a couple things stand out for me is one is like this intense curiosity about something, and also a drive to learn more. And those are two things that anyone can kind of sink themselves into as far as like lessons learned here. You never fully know what those sort of attributes within yourself can amount to. In Chris's case, it helped him pioneer this industry and form it into, you know, what it's become to be in the last 10 to 15 years, and also set himself up, set up his business, set up his career, set up his mission in life.
I was with a company and they did a lot of exploit writing and network testing. So a lot of hacking networks. Okay. And I found that I just wasn't good at coding. It wasn't the way my brain worked, which is when I started reading all those books about humans and influence and all that. And then I would say, hey guys, while you're writing code, can I try an email, a phishing email? And everyone would be like, yeah, I guess you can try. I mean, I don't know if it'll work, right? So I'd send an email and I'd get a password. Like, what? Someone gave me their password over an email? Like, what? And then I tried calling. Hey, this is Paul from IT. We had a database drop last night. I need to reset the password for you. Can I walk you through it? And I would give them a password and they would enter it. And now we had their password, right? And these things were working, but I didn't know why. And that's the part that irritated me, because I'm like, anyone can do this, but it's like, you know, I give this analogy. If you were to go to an auto mechanic and you were to say, hey, I got some squeaky thing here. And they go, yep, that's the brakes. Great. Can you fix it? Nope. You're a useless auto mechanic, right? So don't tell me there's a problem. And I thought that's what I was, a useless auto mechanic. As I can tell them, we broke in, we did this thing, we used phishing, but I couldn't tell them how it worked. So we can't fix it. So that's when I started writing that framework. And when that framework came out, that was 10 months of work for me. I did between 2008 and 2009. When that framework came out in 2009, it was like a college education for me, having read all of these books and documenting the way all of this stuff worked.
Yeah.
And it's a living document. We constantly change it as science changes and things are updated.
Now, in having this long and expansive conversation with Chris about his work and all that he's involved in, towards the end, I wanted to dig in a little bit further. I wanted to find out about some of the hidden challenges, some of the hidden rewards of the work. So here's a clip of Chris explaining some of those for us.
The work that you're involved in, you're perpetually in the state of managing new risks, like new research that comes out on human behavior, or new technology comes out. It's a new variable, as we stated earlier. And that means you got to kind of update, the way you go about things, the way you teach things, so on and so forth. What is that aspect like for you as an organization, constantly living on the edge of all that? I'd imagine it could go down one of two ways, where you're charged up by that, or it can be a bit of a nuisance constantly. I'm thinking it's the former rather than the latter for you, but all the same, I'd love to hear what you think about that.
Yeah. So I like the way you worded that, because it could be both at times. Sometimes I do have days where I feel bleak, right? Like AI is the new biggest thing, and we see it being used, right? There's a scam going around America right now. I think it was Microsoft released a tool that with 3 seconds of audio, you can duplicate a whole conversation in someone's voice. So a bunch of bad guys got the 3 seconds. That's it. So a bunch of bad guys got this, downloaded some Instagram videos from some young girls, spoof a phone number, call the parents, say, we have your daughters. We're going to hurt them if you don't give us ransom money. In the background, mommy, help me. And it sounds like your daughter's voice. And they transfer everything in their savings, $25,000 gone within minutes. And it was all AI. AI fascinates me, and we need to start using it to defend. But at the same time, it terrifies me, right? So I think it's one of those scenarios where it can't terrify. If you want to be in this industry, it can't terrify you enough that you bury your head in the sand and make believe it doesn't exist. You have to spend time reading and learning. You have to. At the same time, you got to balance that. You got to be like, okay, what can we do? Right. And maybe sometimes the answer is there's nothing we can do right now. And all we can do is be aware that this exists.
Now, for the sake of keeping this video relatively short, we are going to wrap things up here, but I do encourage you to check out the full-length audio version. There is so much more detail contained within it. For example, we get into open source intelligence, the value of it, how it's used within the field of social engineering. We also look at behavioral science and how that really influences the work of a social engineer. We even get a really, really interesting story that Chris shares about how he was breaking into or breaking through the security defenses of a Jamaican bank. I'm just going to let that sit there for a second, but the story that's surrounding that, you're not going to want to miss. So again, you can find that full-length audio version wherever you access your podcast. Just do that search for Life as a ... All right, well, I do encourage you to like or subscribe to this video if you're enjoying things. And as always, I am going to have more videos, more professions covered coming right next week. They'll be available to you, so don't miss them. All right, we'll see you then.